So the 2022 Polarises.
I don't own a Polaris this year, but I've owned a 2019 Switchback Assault and a 2017 Switchback Assault, so big fan of Polaris, just don't have one in the camp this season. I'm sure it won't be long until I have another one down the road.
The Matryx has made its way to way more models this year, kind of an inevitable thing. I had like a hunch that they might put the Pro XC rear end in the Matryx. That didn't happen. Looks like they've completely moved away from it. I don't think it's offered on any Sled anymore. So I know some guys are going to be bummed to hear that, but it just seems to be the way Polaris has gone. Matryx has moved to the mountain sleds in the RMK. And it's moved to the XCR along with the existing Indy VR1, Indy XC, Assault, and now the Switchback XC. XCR has a lot of the goodies that it kind of had in the Axis chassis, so you get race handlebars, you get additional bracing, you get the Velocity 2-inch high and low speed compression shocks. When I was reading online, it said they come with 8-inch carbides, which I think is a cool little addition. You get the option of the standard gauge or the 7S display. I've seen some guys saying online that the 136 XCR has tipped rails. I haven't found that anywhere. I see that the cross country does. But, yeah, I just haven't been able to locate that, so I guess it might not. I'm not 100% sure on that. On that note, it's offered in a 128 and a 136, so you get both skid options, decent track selection. Should be a pretty sweet little buggy for everybody looking for a more high-performance version of the Matryx. So the in-season version of the Polaris Matryx now comes with Fox QS3 shocks. I think that's an awesome addition. You know, that's kind of an upper echelon shock for some manufacturers like Arctic Cat and Yamaha, and that's their kind of in-season shock now, so good for them. It's going to make a lot of people happy. I think that's a very good shock for a vast majority of riders, and it's simple, you know. You want soft, medium, hard, you can adjust it easy enough. I kind of have a hunch that the reason they moved to that is because they're going to do some sort of adjustable version of a shock down the road, and maybe they couldn't do that with Walker Evans, so we'll see if kind of the whole lineup starts to move towards Fox shocks.
Just to add, my point here was that hopefully Polaris down the line will have some sort of on-the-fly adjustable shock, like kind of what Skidoo has, like a smart shock. And I'm kind of curious if that's why they're moving towards Fox shocks on their in-season models, but we'll see if that comes to be.
The Switchback XC is effectively an Assault with the QS3 shocks, just to kind of offer an in-season version, and I think that's definitely a plus. The Assault can be a little stiff for people, so having them, you know, put the QS3s on it and give people a little bit more plush of a ride, but still one of the best crossovers on the market, is you can't beat that. So
the Switchback XC does only come with the standard gauge, so not the 7S, being kind of their in-season model. That is to be expected, but just something to keep in mind as well.
The big news this season is obviously the RMK making its way over to the Matryx, and in addition, Polaris Patriot Boost. So Polaris did come out with their version of a 850 turbo, making 10% more horsepower at sea level and making 50% more at elevation. So that's an awesome boost. It's kind of ironic. Awesome boost in power, putting it at probably close to 190 horsepower at sea level. So, I mean, that's a rocket of a sled. Would be very competitive with the 4-stroke turbo offerings from Yamaha, Arctic Cat, and Skidoo in their stock form. Kind of a cool thing they did was mount the turbo 90 degrees to how it would normally be mounted, so it's kind of like resting on its back over the muffler. Allowed them to free up some space, and definitely an innovative thing. I've never seen it in anything. It could be on some sort of car or truck or something, and I'm just not aware of it, but a cool little tidbit by Polaris to make more room.
When it comes to the Patriot Boost, you have a very similar architecture to the 850 Patriot. One of the big things is an updated piston, and then the P22 clutch. So that has an idler bearing on the center shaft, which allows it to keep the belt tension as tight as possible at all times. That's in their side-by-sides, and that's something that Arctic Cat's had. So I'll be interested to see if this becomes commonplace amongst all brands in the future. I'm sure it will. The ease of use is definitely awesome. They're a little noisy, at least the Arctic Cat version is, but really not a big deal. And once people get more used to that, if it's the same case with the Polaris, I don't think it'll even be a topic of discussion.
Hopefully we see that Patriot boots come to trail sleds or crossovers at least. It'd be really awesome to see that. Them touting how it makes more power at sea level, it does seem like something that could happen. So the Axis chassis is still available in a few select models. In general, a big push to the Matryx. The Matryx chassis itself is 3 inches shorter than the Axis, and then there's the Matryx Slash, which is a short tunnel tapered sled that is, I believe, 8 inches, 8 or 8.5 inches shorter than the Axis. So awesome stuff for the mountain guys. On all of the Matryx mountain sleds, they've now moved the tunnel cooler to the center of the sled rather than the rear of the sled. So that's supposed to help cooling. It's supposed to help center the sled, keep the weight where it needs to be. Apparently they did that because when they shortened it and tapered the tunnel, there was no room for a tunnel cooler back there, or even if there was, it would have to be so reduced in size that the capacity wouldn't be good. So they moved it to the center, kind of like what Arctic Cat does. A really cool addition is the Chaos 146. Seems like a cool package for like the UP and the main guys. I mean, that's got to be the perfect sled. That's going to be competing with the Freeride 146, the Riot X, and be a top-notch runner in my opinion. Does not come with the Patriot boost, but still very cool to see the Chaos making its way to smaller models. Now you get a 146, a 155, or a 165. The only drawback I see with guys that are going to inevitably try to trail ride that sled, it has a vertical steering post like the RMK, and it has a 36 to 38 inch stance like an RMK. So pushing much more off trail than on trail. Some guys are going to try to make it work. I'm curious to see how the cooling's going to be with that short tunnel. People are saying it's going to be good, especially now that the cooler is in the center. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll have to see. I'm sure plenty of people will do it, so we'll know next year, that's for sure.
So kind of two elements to think about when it comes to the Chaos 146. So first of all, the SKS has gone away. The thinking behind that is that with the center cooler on the mountain sleds now, you won't need a mountain sled that has additional cooling like the SKS used to have, so they can kind of get away from having to offer that model and just focus on kind of one model that's able to do a little bit more. The fact that the Chaos 146 has a 2-inch track, definitely leaning towards being, trail rideable. They do still offer it with a 2.6 track also for the guys that are going to be spending a lot more time off trail than on. So cool to see all the options out there. Glad to see sleds like this kind of come into market. And I'm sure the people that will make use of them are going to absolutely love them.
Another really cool model that Polaris sort of released is the XCR cross country race sled. So that's a 136 tipped up rails, strengthened A-arms. It's running a 600cc engine. I'm assuming it's straight out of the Axis R. Just a very beefed up sled in general, solid idler wheels. It's only available through the race program, and from what I've heard through a lot of people, it is next to impossible to get that to be any different. I know guys that can get the Axis R Racer through dealers. They have guys they can pull strings with, and their dealers are saying there is nothing we can do. We cannot get you with the cross country. So
overall, I gotta say Polaris, awesome launch this year. Definitely a heavier mountain launch, but that's kind of to be expected when the Matryx is now making its way to the mountain sleds. You have the regular Matryx RMK, you have the Matryx RMK Slash, you have the Matryx RMK Slash Boost sleds. So just a lot of awesome stuff. You got the P22 clutch, definitely just a great launch overall for them. Trail-wise, a good launch as well. You got the XCR, you have the QS3 shocks making their way to all the in-season models. I think that's definitely a big plus, not only just because I think it's a good shock and it's very manageable for a lot of different people, but I think having Walker Evans shocks on the SnowCheck sleds and then QS3s on the in-season sleds will just kind of help with availability of the shocks, and it'll make it so that Polaris hopefully doesn't have any sort of shortcomings when it comes to parts to get sleds out. that kind of leads me into my overall thoughts. Like, I love the competition that Skidoo and Polaris bring for one another. Kind of seems like whenever one brand's doing something, the other brand's doing, something along a similar line, and it kind of makes them work harder to make the best product possible. We now have two 2-stroke turbos. We have two 850 2-stroke engines. We have two smart gauges, however you want to look at that. 7S, the 7.8 display from Skidoo. Just in general, like, a lot of competition and bringing the sport way forward. I like that they keep each other on their toes, and I like that they do everything a little bit different. It really does offer the ability to see what might be better, what might be worse, whereas, when there's only one offering, you have nothing to compare it to, so it's like, well, this is the best out there because there's nothing else that even comes close. So I really like that, and I think it's going to keep pushing the sport forward.